She said, "Open relationships are normal now. Don't be insecure." After I found her messages, "My name is Marcus, and I'm 31 years old, born and raised in Atlanta before I moved out to Seattle for work. I'm a project manager at a tech firm, decent money, decent life, nothing flashy but stable. For 3 years, I thought I had found the woman I was going to marry. Her name was Vanessa, and she had this energy about her that could light up a whole room without effort. She was a graphic designer, freelanced mostly, talked about opening her own studio someday but never quite got around to it. Hello friends, before I continue the story, please support the channel by becoming a subscriber and giving the video a like. Also, let us know in the comments where you're watching right now. We met through a dating app, which felt almost embarrassing to admit at first, but our first date lasted 6 hours. We sat in a coffee shop until they kicked us out, then walked around the waterfront talking until my phone died. She told me she loved how I listened, really listened, not just waiting for my turn to talk. I told her I loved how passionate she was about everything, from her work to her opinions on which pizza spot had the best crust. Felt easy, natural, like we'd known each other in another life. Those early days were some of the best I'd ever had. I moved her into my place after 8 months because her lease was up and she was between contracts. She said it made sense financially, and I didn't hesitate because I wanted her there anyway. I paid most of the bills while she got her portfolio together, bought her a new laptop when hers crashed, helped her set up her website from scratch. She'd cook dinner sometimes, we'd watch movies on the couch, and she'd fall asleep with her head on my chest. Felt like we were building something real, something that would last. But somewhere around year 2, things started shifting in ways I couldn't quite name at first. She started spending more time on her phone, scrolling through Instagram and TikTok, watching videos about self-care and toxic masculinity and modern dating. She'd show me clips of influencers talking about how monogamy was just a social construct designed to control women. I'd laugh it off, thinking it was just content she found interesting, not a philosophy she was adopting. I didn't realize she was building a framework to justify what was already happening behind my back. The comments started small, little jabs disguised as jokes or observations. You know, some couples have open arrangements and they're actually happier. Jealousy is just internalized insecurity, babe. I saw this thing about ethical non-monogamy, pretty interesting stuff. I'd shrug and say that wasn't for me, that I believed in commitment, and she'd roll her eyes like I was some old man yelling at clouds. Every time I expressed discomfort, she'd flip it back on me, making me feel like I was the problem for not being evolved enough. It was subtle at first, but it was corrosive. Then came the night that changed everything. The night I couldn't unsee what was right in front of me. We were sitting on the couch, just finished dinner, and she got up to take a shower. She left her phone on the coffee table, face up, charging. I wasn't looking for anything, wasn't suspicious, wasn't snooping. A message popped up on the screen, and I saw it before I even realized what I was reading. "Last night was amazing. When can I see you again?" With a heart emoji, from someone named Jordan. My chest went cold, like someone had dumped ice water directly into my lungs. I didn't pick up the phone, didn't unlock it, just stared at that message until the screen went dark again. My hands started shaking, not from anger but from the weight of realization crashing down on me all at once. I sat there frozen, listening to the water running in the bathroom, knowing that when she came out, everything was going to be different. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I knew I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen it. When she walked out in her robe, drying her hair with a towel, she saw me sitting there with her phone in my hand. Her face changed immediately, not guilty, but defensive, like I'd violated some boundary by existing in the same room as her messages. "Why are you going through my phone?" she asked, her voice sharp. "I didn't go through it," I said quietly. "A message popped up while you were in the shower." She snatched the phone from me like I'd stolen something precious. Her jaw tightened, and she crossed her arms over her chest. "Who's Jordan?" I asked, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. She let out a long sigh, the kind people do when they're annoyed at having to explain themselves. "He's just someone I've been talking to," she said casually, like we were discussing the weather. "Talking to," I repeated. She nodded, scrolling through her phone now, not even looking at me. Yeah, we hung out a couple times. It's not a big deal. I stood up, needing to move, needing to do something with the adrenaline that was flooding my system. You've been seeing someone else, I said, and it wasn't a question. She rolled her eyes, actually rolled her eyes at me. Don't make it sound so dramatic. Marcus, we hung out. We talked. We connected. That's it. That's it, I said slowly. She looked at me then, and there was something cold in her expression, something I'd never seen before. You're acting like I committed some crime when all I did was have a connection with another person. I felt like I was losing my mind, like the floor was tilting beneath me. We're in a relationship, Vanessa. An exclusive relationship. She scoffed, shaking her head. Exclusive is just a word, babe. It doesn't mean I stop being a human being with needs and curiosity. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to laugh and say she was joking. But she didn't. She just stood there, defiant, like I was the one being unreasonable. I've been trying to talk to you about this for months, she continued, her voice rising now. I've brought up open relationships, polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, and every time you shut it down like some scared little boy. Scared, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, scared, she shot back. Scared of growth, scared of change, scared of me being my own person. I felt something inside me break, not loudly, but quietly, like a thread snapping under too much weight. You cheated on me? I said plainly, and the words hung in the air between us. She threw her hands up. Oh my God, here we go with the cheating narrative. I didn't cheat, Marcus. I explored a connection. There's a difference. There's no difference, I said. She stepped closer, her eyes flashing. Yes, there is, and the fact that you can't see that just proves how emotionally stunted you are. Emotionally stunted, I repeated, tasting the bitterness of the words. She nodded, fully committed now to making me the villain in her story. Open relationships are normal now, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. People are evolving past this possessive, patriarchal bullshit, and you're stuck in the past acting like you own me. I didn't say anything because there was nothing left to say. She wasn't asking for my understanding. She was demanding my compliance. And when I wouldn't give it, she was ready to tear me down to justify her choices. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. Maybe I never really knew her at all. That night, I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling until the sun came up. She tried to talk to me before bed, tried to soften her tone and say we could work through this if I just opened my mind. I didn't respond, didn't engage, just turned away and closed my eyes even though I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing, replaying every conversation, every comment, every little moment that I dismissed as harmless. I realized this wasn't new. It had been building for months, maybe longer, and I'd been too in love to see it. But I saw it now, clear as day, and I couldn't unsee it. The next morning, she left for a coffee meeting with a client, or at least that's what she said. I didn't ask questions, didn't argue, just nodded and watched her walk out the door. As soon as she was gone, I called my boy Devin, told him I needed help moving, and he didn't ask why. He just said, I'll be there in an hour. By the time Vanessa got back that evening, half my stuff was already gone. I didn't take everything that day because I didn't want a confrontation, didn't want the drama or the guilt trip. I moved in stages, quietly, methodically, like I was erasing myself from her life one box at a time. My clothes, my books, my gaming setup, my records, everything that was mine. I left behind the furniture I'd bought for us, the kitchen stuff, the decorations, all of it. I didn't want anything that would remind me of what I thought we were building together. I just wanted out. On the third day, while she was at a yoga class, I packed the last of my things. I stood in the bedroom for a minute, looking around at the space we used to share, the bed we used to sleep in, the life I thought we were creating. It felt hollow now, like a stage set that had been abandoned mid-performance. I took a deep breath, grabbed my final box, and walked out. On the kitchen counter, I left a note, short and to the point. You wanted freedom. Now you have it. Don't contact me. Then I locked the door and slid the key under the mat. The first month after I left was the quietest period of my life, and I don't mean that in a peaceful way. I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment in a different part of the city, bare walls, creaky floors, but it was mine. I didn't have Vanessa's voice filling the space, didn't have her music playing, didn't have her energy bouncing off the walls. It was just me, alone with my thoughts, and for a while that was terrifying. I kept waiting for the sadness to hit, for the tears, for the regret, but it never came the way I expected. What I felt instead was relief, and that confused me more than anything. I wasn't relieved that the relationship was over. I was relieved that I didn't have to keep pretending everything was fine. I didn't have to keep second-guessing my own feelings or wondering if I was being too sensitive or too traditional. I didn't have to keep defending my boundaries like they were unreasonable requests. I could just exist without constantly being made to feel like I was the problem. That relief felt like breathing fresh air after being underwater for too long. I started rebuilding my routine, piece by piece, nothing dramatic, just small steps. I went to the gym in the mornings, something I used to do before Vanessa said it was toxic gym bro culture. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted away from because she thought they were immature or a bad influence. I started cooking for myself again, trying new recipes, enjoying the process instead of rushing through it. I even picked up my old habit of reading before bed, something I'd stopped doing because she always wanted to watch shows together. It felt good to reclaim the parts of myself I'd let go of without even realizing it. But the silence didn't last, because Vanessa wasn't the type to let things end quietly. About 2 weeks after I moved out, my phone started buzzing with messages from numbers I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was spam, but then I realized they were from her friends, people I barely knew, sending me paragraphs about how I should hear her out. "She's really struggling," one message said. "She didn't mean to hurt you," said another. "You guys were so good together. Don't throw it away over one mistake." I didn't respond to any of them, just deleted the messages and kept moving forward. Then came the emails, long, rambling essays sent at 2 or 3 in the morning. "I miss you," the subject lines read. "Please let me explain. I made a mistake." I didn't open them at first, just let them pile up in my inbox like junk mail. But curiosity got the better of me one night, and I clicked on one. It was full of apologies, but not real ones, the kind where she was sorry I felt hurt, not sorry for what she did. She wrote about how she was confused, how she was trying to find herself, how modern relationships are complicated and I just didn't understand. She ended it with, "I know we can get past this if you just give me another chance." I closed the email and didn't respond, didn't dignify it with a reply. She wanted closure, or maybe she wanted control, wanted to know that she still had some kind of hold on me. But I wasn't giving her that. I wasn't going to be the safety net she could fall back on when her other options didn't work out. I'd already given her 3 years of my life, my support, my love, and she threw it away for some fantasy of freedom that she didn't even understand. I wasn't about to give her one more second of my energy. A few days later, I got a text from my cousin Nia, who I hadn't talked to in months. "Yo, isn't that your ex blowing up on Instagram?" she wrote, followed by a screenshot. I clicked on it and saw a post from Vanessa, a long caption about self-discovery and toxic relationships and how she was learning to prioritize herself. It was full of buzzwords and empty platitudes, the kind of thing designed to get likes and comments from people who didn't know the full story. The comments were full of support. "You're so strong. You deserve better. Men are trash." All the usual performative nonsense. I scrolled through her page and saw more of the same, thirst traps mixed with pseudo-intellectual rants about love and freedom. It was like watching someone perform a version of themselves for an audience that didn't care. I felt nothing looking at it, no anger, no jealousy, just a kind of distant pity. She was trying so hard to convince everyone, including herself, that she was thriving, but I could see through it. She wasn't thriving, she was spiraling, and she was doing it publicly because she needed the validation. I closed the app and didn't look again. Over the next few weeks, I started hearing things through the grapevine, little updates from mutual friends who probably shouldn't have been telling me anything. Jordan, the guy from the messages, apparently ghosted her after a couple weeks. She'd gone all in, talking about how she'd finally found someone who understood her, and then he just stopped responding. Another guy she'd been seeing, someone named Marcus, ironically, turned out to have a whole girlfriend he'd never mentioned. One by one, the options she thought she had disappeared, and she was left with nothing but her own rhetoric. One of her friends, someone named Simone who I'd met a few times, reached out to me directly. "I know it's not my place," she wrote, "but Vanessa's not doing well. She talks about you all the time, says she made the biggest mistake of her life." I read the message twice, then typed out a response. "She made her choice, and I made mine. I'm not interested in revisiting it." Simone replied with a sad face emoji, like that was supposed to change my mind. I didn't respond again. Then one evening, about 6 weeks after I'd left, I came home from work and found her sitting on the steps outside my building. My stomach dropped when I saw her, not out of longing, but out of frustration that she couldn't just let it go. She stood up when she saw me, her arms wrapped around herself like she was cold even though it was a warm night. "Hey," she said, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. I stopped a few feet away, keeping my distance. "What are you doing here, Vanessa? I needed to see you," she said, her eyes red like she'd been crying. "You blocked me everywhere. I didn't know how else to reach you." "I did that on purpose," I said, keeping my voice flat. She flinched a little like the words stung. "I know I messed up," she said, taking a step closer. "I know I hurt you, but I didn't realize what I was losing until it was gone." I didn't say anything, just watched her, waiting to see where this was going. "Everything fell apart after you left," she continued, her voice shaking now. "The people I thought cared about me didn't. Nobody wanted anything real, they just wanted— I don't even know what they wanted." I nodded slowly. "That's usually how it goes when you choose chaos over stability." She looked down at her feet. "I was wrong," she whispered. "I was so wrong about everything, and I need you to know that." I took a breath, considering my words carefully. "You weren't wrong," I said. "You were honest, maybe for the first time. You showed me exactly who you are." She looked up at me, confused. "What does that mean?" "It means you wanted something I couldn't give you," I said. "You wanted freedom, attention, validation from people who didn't know you, and that's fine. But I wanted a partner, someone who chose me every day, not someone who saw me as a backup plan." She started crying then, real tears, not the performative kind. "You weren't a backup plan," she said. "You were everything. I just didn't see it." I shook my head. "No, you saw it, you just didn't value it." "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "Can we just talk? Just coffee? Just once? I've changed, Marcus, I swear I have." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment I almost felt bad. But then I remembered the nights I spent questioning myself, the way she made me feel like my boundaries were character flaws, the way she gaslit me into thinking I was the problem. I remembered all of it, and I knew there was no going back. "No," I said simply. "There's nothing left to talk about." Her face crumpled, and she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "So that's it? You're just done with me, just like that?" "It wasn't just like that," I said. "It took 3 years and a lot of pain to get here. But yeah, I'm done." She stared at me like she was waiting for me to change my mind, waiting for the version of me that would have forgiven her no matter what. But that version was gone. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said. "But it's not going to be with me." I walked past her, unlocked the door to my building, and went inside without looking back. I heard her call my name once, but I didn't stop, didn't turn around, just kept walking until I was in my apartment with the door closed behind me. I leaned against the wall and let out a long breath, feeling the weight of that conversation settle over me. It wasn't satisfaction I felt, it was finality, the kind that comes when you know a chapter is truly over. There was no dramatic scene, no yelling, no begging that would change anything, just the quiet acceptance that some things can't be repaired. After that night, the messages stopped, the emails stopped, the third-party interventions stopped. Maybe she finally understood that I meant what I said, or maybe she just ran out of energy to keep trying. Either way, the silence that followed was different from the silence before. It wasn't empty or uncomfortable, it was peaceful. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you made the right choice even when it hurt. I stopped checking her social media, stopped listening for updates, stopped caring what she was doing or who she was with. She became a part of my past, not my present, and that felt like freedom. I threw myself into work, took on new projects, started mentoring junior team members, found purpose in building something tangible. My boss noticed the change, said I seemed more focused, more confident, and asked if I was interested in a leadership role that was opening up. I said yes without hesitation, something I wouldn't have done a year ago when I was too busy managing Vanessa's emotions to think about my own career. The promotion came through a month later, and with it came a sense of accomplishment that had nothing to do with anyone else. It was mine, earned, deserved, untainted by doubt. I also started going to therapy, something I'd been putting off for years. At first, I felt weird about it, like admitting I needed help meant I was broken somehow. But my therapist, a black woman in her 50s named Dr. Harper, made it clear from the first session that healing wasn't about being broken. It was about being whole. We talked about boundaries, about self-worth, about the ways I'd allowed someone else's narrative to override my own instincts. She never told me what to do, just asked questions that made me think, really think, about who I was and who I wanted to be. Those sessions became an anchor in my week, a space where I could be honest without judgment. Through therapy, I started to see patterns I'd ignored, not just in my relationship with Vanessa, but in other areas of my life. I realized I had a tendency to overgive, to prioritize other people's comfort over my own needs, to stay silent when I should have spoken up. It wasn't just about romantic relationships, it was about friendships, family dynamics, work situations, all of it. I'd spent so much of my life trying to be the dependable one, the stable one, the one who never caused problems, that I'd forgotten it was okay to have needs of my own. Recognizing that was painful, but it was also liberating, like taking off a heavy coat I didn't realize I'd been wearing. I started dating again. Casually, nothing serious, just meeting people and seeing what was out there. I wasn't looking to replace Vanessa or fill some void. I was just curious about who I was in the context of new connections. I went on a few dates that went nowhere, had some good conversations, some awkward ones, some that reminded me why I needed to be single for a while. But then I met someone named Jasmine at a bookstore, of all places. She was browsing the same section I was, and we ended up talking for an hour about our favorite authors. There was no pressure, no performance, just two people connecting over something simple. We exchanged numbers, and over the next few weeks we texted, went out for coffee, took walks, talked about everything and nothing. Jasmine was a teacher, grounded, thoughtful, the kind of person who asked questions because she genuinely wanted to know the answers. She didn't play games, didn't test me, didn't try to make me prove my worth. When I told her about my past relationship, she listened without judgment, then said, "It sounds like you learned what you don't want. That's valuable." I appreciated that she didn't try to fix me or save me. She just saw me as I was. It was refreshing in a way I didn't know I needed. Things with Jasmine progressed naturally, no rushing, no pressure to define what we were or where it was going. We just enjoyed each other's company, and that was enough. She met my friends, I met hers, and there was no drama, no red flags, no moments where I felt like I had to defend my boundaries. It was easy, not in a boring way, but in a way that felt healthy, sustainable, real. I wasn't comparing her to Vanessa because they were completely different people, and I was a different person than I'd been back then. I'd grown, learned, evolved, and I refused to settle for anything less than what I deserved. About 4 months after I'd seen Vanessa outside my building, I got an invitation to a mutual friend's birthday party. It was someone from our old circle, and I almost didn't go because I knew there was a chance she'd be there. But I decided I wasn't going to let the possibility of an awkward encounter keep me from living my life. I brought Jasmine with me, and we showed up fashionably late, drinks in hand, ready to have a good time. The party was at a rooftop bar, music playing, people laughing. The city lights stretched out below us. Felt good to be there, to be present, to be happy. We mingled for a while, caught up with people I hadn't seen in months, introduced Jasmine to a few folks who were genuinely happy to meet her. And then I saw Vanessa, standing near the bar with a drink in her hand, talking to someone I didn't recognize. She looked different, thinner maybe, or just tired, like the spark she used to have had dimmed. Our eyes met across the room, and for a second, everything went quiet in my head. I didn't feel anger or sadness or regret, just a kind of neutral acknowledgement, like running into an old coworker you used to know. I gave her a small nod, polite but distant, and turned back to my conversation. She didn't come over, didn't try to talk to me, and I didn't seek her out either. We existed in the same space for a couple hours without interacting, and that felt like closure in its own way. I didn't need a final conversation, didn't need her to apologize or explain or beg for forgiveness. I'd already moved on, and seeing her there, looking lost while I was standing next to someone who made me feel seen, was all the confirmation I needed. When Jasmine and I left that night, I didn't look back, didn't wonder what Vanessa was thinking or feeling. I just walked out into the cool night air, hand in hand with someone who chose me every day, and that was enough. In the weeks that followed, I found myself thinking less and less about the past. Vanessa became a story I told in therapy, a lesson I'd learned, a chapter that was closed and filed away. I wasn't bitter, wasn't carrying resentment. I was just done. I'd given her the freedom she claimed she wanted, and in doing so, I'd found my own. I wasn't the same man who'd sat on that couch staring at a message on her phone, paralyzed by the realization that everything I believed was a lie. I was stronger now, clearer, more certain of who I was and what I deserved. And that version of me wasn't going back. Life kept moving forward as it always does, and I kept moving with it. I got better at my job, deepened my friendships, built a relationship with Jasmine that felt solid and real. I started saying no to things that didn't serve me, started prioritizing my own peace, started trusting my instincts again. I learned that healing isn't linear, that some days are harder than others, but that growth happens in the quiet moments when you choose yourself over comfort. I learned that walking away doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise, especially when you're walking away from something that was slowly destroying you. One Saturday afternoon, I was cleaning out my closet and found a box I'd shoved in the back when I first moved. Inside were a few things from the old apartment, photos, a hoodie Vanessa had left at my place, a birthday card she'd given me. I sat there for a minute, holding the card, reading the words she'd written about how much she loved me, how lucky she felt to have me. It felt like reading something from another lifetime, words from a person who didn't exist anymore, or maybe never did. I closed the box, took it downstairs, and tossed it in the dumpster without ceremony. It wasn't anger, it was release, letting go of the last pieces of something that no longer had a place in my life. That night, Jasmine came over, and we cooked dinner together, nothing fancy, just pasta and wine and conversation. We talked about our weeks, made plans for the weekend, laughed at some dumb memes she showed me on her phone. It was simple, ordinary, beautiful in its lack of drama. After dinner, we sat on the couch, her head on my shoulder, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: contentment. Not the fleeting kind that depends on external validation, but the deep, steady kind that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I kissed the top of her head, and she smiled, and in that moment, I knew I'd made it through to the other side. Looking back now, I can see how much that experience with Vanessa changed me, not just in the way I approach relationships, but in the way I see myself. I used to think love meant sacrifice, compromise, bending until you almost break to make someone else happy. But I learned that real love, healthy love, doesn't ask you to shrink yourself or ignore your own needs. Real love is reciprocal, respectful, rooted in honesty and mutual care. It doesn't gaslight you into thinking your boundaries are character flaws. It honors them. It doesn't make you choose between your peace and the relationship. It creates space for both. That's the kind of love I have now, and I'm never settling for less again. Vanessa taught me what I don't want, and in doing so, she cleared the path for what I do want. I don't wish her harm. Don't spend energy hoping she suffers or regrets what she did. I just hope she finds whatever it is she's looking for, though I doubt she'll find it until she stops running from herself. As for me, I found something better than what we had. I found myself. I found peace, clarity, self-respect, and a love that doesn't require me to lose myself to keep it. That's worth more than any relationship built on chaos and buzzwords could ever be. And I'm grateful, in a strange way, that she showed me the door, because walking through it was the best decision I ever made. Thank you for watching all the way through. There's another story to your left screen. You'll enjoy it more than this one.